Hi, and welcome to a SOMA TV special. I'm here, Larry Petraccaro, with my co-host Melissa Kopecky, who was a co-host on Books in Action years ago and is also a member of the South Orange Rotary Club over 15 years. And in terms of being a part of the Rotary Club, she is the secretary. And we're joined tonight by Anthony DeFranco, who is the treasurer, an important person to know, and Stacy Borden, who is the president and the president-elect. So we wanted to talk a little bit about the Rotary Club of South Orange, and maybe by extension a little bit about what Rotary Clubs do on a larger scale. So why don't we start with, what is Rotary?
Rotary is a service organization. It is about giving back to your community, finding a project that you want to do in your community, and then figuring out how to get it done.
Any project? Do you have
really anything.
Well, Rotary is an international organization, so can you talk a little bit about that part of it? Because that's what makes it, I mean, it's community focused, but it's also pulling the world together and certain projects and initiatives as well. So talk about
the biggest project that Rotary takes care of is the ending of polio. And polio was a worldwide issue. It is no longer. It's now only in Pakistan and Afghanistan, and it's only found in the mountains, which are the most difficult parts of the area to get to. And we give the 2 drops of medicine to all of the children as often as they need it, which because their nutrition is not as good, they need a few days of drops, or within weeks.
Well, when did you start that, and did you just raise funds to provide pay for the cost of the medicine, or were you there on the ground? I mean, what were some of the actual?
So I think it was in 1984, a Rotarian came forward and said, this is really a problem and we should end polio. And iron lungs were all over the place, and it was really, people were very aware of the issues. And they started raising money. Over the years, they've gotten more and more money. There's a specific fund called Polio Plus that you can give your money towards. And Bill Gates got involved through his father, who was a Rotarian, and they started matching funds 2 to 1, 3 to 1 for different parts of the year, and they are committed absolutely to the ending of polio. And we are in the final inch, and there's a video about the final inch. And ending polio.
Do you have an estimate of when you think and Pakistan is the only place where it is now?
Pakistan and Afghanistan. Okay.
Now
Nigeria's been taken care of, and India has been polio-free for a number of years now.
Have they been easier to deal with, India and Nigeria, than Pakistan and Afghanistan?
The people are fine, and Rotarians are everywhere throughout the world. So it is Rotarians that actually give the kids the droplets, and they go in groups of people. They're national immunization days where the Taliban will stop warring and let the volunteers come through to inoculate the children. So it does happen, and the people are great, and we really haven't had any problems. We've had, if they go into a war-torn area, it's risky, but they have had conversations with the people who are at war to stop during that time, so that they can do the inoculation.
And that's a really good example of how the international component of Rotary can go down to any specific community. So as I'm talking on both sides of the seats here now, because I've been such a long-time member of Rotary. I think if well, Anthony, why don't you say something about Rotary too? Because I think it's one of those things where people see signs, you drive into town and it tells you the Rotary Club. And this is actually a very cool thing about Rotary is that, oh, I'll save that. But you know it usually says where they meet. So there's a weekly meeting, and any Rotarian is welcome to drop in at any meeting. So, but that idea of international and local, I was thinking
Yes.
about, you know, we've worked with international.
Yes, we have. So we have done, as a local Rotary Club in South Orange, we have done some international projects. One of the projects we've done is raise baseball equipment for teenagers in the Dominican Republic. And they just weren't, as many know, a lot of baseball players do come here from the U.S., from the Dominican Republic, and we were instrumental in raising equipment for them. And we sent them mitts and bats, and they were actually using, in some areas, leaves and branches to play baseball because they had such a love for the game. So we had raised some equipment. We sent that over. We also had a bicycle drive. So even though we are a local club here in South Orange, we have been involved in our own fundraising to help certain countries meet their needs with what they were looking for.
So you're teaming up with a club somewhere across, and actually then there was the project we did in Maplewood, which we
That's it.
partnered with a
3 Rotary clubs in India.
Yeah, yes.
I couldn't remember how
So
many
that was
clubs.
the outdoor learning center
Learning
for the
Center
Seth Boyden
at Seth
School.
Boyden.
Tell us a little bit about that. What did that consist of, the Outdoor Learning Center?
Did you, were you aware of it, Melissa, the details, or?
Yeah, well, so the clubs in India supported us with money, and we did the on-the-ground stuff, although we probably matched the money as well locally.
money involved.
But we spent a day or two with a number of the Rotarians there, and we actually were helping dig and stuff like that when they were laying out the classroom.
We did
So,
we were involved in the purchase of the tables and benches, I think, that were part of it. And they had to go in the ground and be concreted in the ground.
Secured.
Secured, thank you.
We were talking a little bit about the international aspect of the Rotary clubs. And you had mentioned that there were 3 organizations in India that worked with the organization in South Orange to do something in Maplewood. And is that unusual? You know, without, it would just seem that, you know, most of the opportunity would be from the U.S. to go overseas, not from the overseas to come to the U.S.
Yeah.
Or is that part of some, you know, some culture aspect of Rotary clubs?
So we are trying to do that exchange back and forth, and in the past more money has gone from the United States out because we think of ourselves as being able, as not being, having a need for that. But Rotary's trying to change our way of thinking into, we do need things over here, and starting to bring money over here so that Rotary clubs have the opportunity to come over and take a look at what the projects that we're doing here in the United States. We also have exchange programs with students and adults that go over and do things, like the National Immunization Day, where people from the United States will go over and help immunize some of the kids.
This is the polio?
That's polio. We're working on diabetes and mosquito, malaria as issues also, and we're trying to find out how to resolve those also. But the work is being done by Rotary. What was the other thing? Exchange programs. So there's, in our district alone, which is 94 clubs, we do an exchange with Japan, which comes up in July and August. And in July, we go to Japan for 3 weeks, and in August, they come here for 3 weeks. And they spend their time in the northern New Jersey area visiting different sites and doing different things.
You mentioned district, 94 clubs you said in the district that you guys are in. Do those districts cross state borders, or are they all within an individual state or an individual county for that matter?
Right now, the district that we're in, 7475, is the more central Jersey north. But there's a section, Bergen and Passaic counties, which is a completely separate district. So, and then there's southern Jersey. There's another 2 more, I think, in the southern part of New Jersey districts.
Does the organization have, at the district level, something similar to what we have here, secretary, treasurer, president?
Yes, they do.
And it works that way across the international, so everything gets broken down the same way in different places.
I do want to say something, though. We talk a lot about what's going on internationally or in the districts, and then there's another name called the zones, which are several districts together. But the most important person in Rotary is you, the Rotarian. You're the one that has access to doing anything you want to do in Rotary. And all you have to do is come to your other members and talk to them about the project. A good example is the police department came to us and said, we want to work with trafficking in the area. Let's put up signs, give us some seed money. We'll put up signs that say, keep kids alive, drive 25. And have you seen those signs in South Orange?
I've seen some signs, yeah.
Yeah. And eventually the neighborhood associations picked that up and started putting those signs up. Another one is the free little libraries.
Oh, I've seen those, yeah.
Okay. So we started, I think we started.
And the Friends of the South Orange Public Library who keep those, visit those and keep them stocked. So that's been really nice. I think that's another thing that Rotary does really well is integrate within the community with other service
Talking about the
clubs.
library, we were also involved in the park benches. So there's a bench in the front, in the rear, and is there one on the side also?
There's 2, well, side and rear. And the bench in the front went in years ago, and it's actually dedicated to a really wonderful South Orange Rotarian who passed away way too young. But she would be delighted to know that she is, that bench is never unoccupied. Never.
Well, does that present a different kind of challenge? Because what you're describing, things that are almost hyper-local and things that are moving the needle on an international world basis. Malaria, you mentioned.
Yep.
And malaria, I think I read some places, perhaps a disease that kills more people than anyone else. So it's interesting that you span that. To me, excuse me. To me, at any rate, it's interesting that you span such a range of activity. You know, getting somebody to maybe put some paperback books in a local house. And speaking of spanning activity, we're going to have to close this activity for a minute. We're going to have to take a break. So we're going to take a break. If you'll come back to us in a few minutes, we'll get right back to where we were.
It's an onion.
Hi, and welcome back to our SOMA TV special about the Rotary Club of South Orange. I'm here with Melissa Kopecky, not only my co-host, but a lifelong, well, maybe not a lifelong, 15-year long, but Rotarian.
I think more than that.
More than that. Anthony DeFranco.
You're going to make me do math now.
Well, she was a librarian, so she won't do the math. But also Anthony DeFranco and Stacy Borden. And we were talking about the challenges of being both hyper-local and international. But why don't we concentrate a little more now on what you do locally, South Orange, or at least in the general area?
Yeah. So a couple years ago, a teacher came to us and asked, a 5th grade teacher, gym teacher, came to us and said, you know, I really want to get some pedometers and start a program in the school so the kids can count the number of steps that they do during the day in the school. And then we find out that the steps are being counted to go to into a math class, and they're counting the steps in the math class. And then they're taking the steps that they've counted and putting them on a map and geographically defining where they go on those number of steps. And then in the next class, cultural class, they're looking at where they've gotten to with the number of steps and discovering the culture of that area that they got to in the steps on the map from their gym class.
That's pretty interesting. It's nice when things like that get melded together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yes,
thought
it
that
is.
was fabulous. And that project went through all of the 5th grades in all of South Orange and Maplewood,
Oh, neat.
as I understand it. So
That's nice.
So,
Yep.
and actually, talk about the dictionary project about
right.
and whatever else, some other things that we've
So
done.
for years, we had partnered with the Maplewood Rotary Club, and we had given out dictionaries to 3rd graders. And this would more or less be their own individual dictionary, in most cases, their first dictionary. And we would go into the schools in both towns, South Orange and Maplewood, and hand them out. And every time we did this and we presented them to the kids, they were always very, very excited to get this dictionary. And of course, they would just start looking words up right away. So that was one of the things that we've done for many years that the 3rd graders had enjoyed. We've been responsible for many blood drives in the past.
Shredding.
Yeah, that's right.
What was it?
Shredding.
Shredding
Okay.
drives.
Yeah, so we had a shred day, which was on a Saturday, where residents were able to bring their papers that they just wanted to shred, and we were the ones who funded that activity. So we did that in the past. So like you said, there are a lot of different things that we have done locally, and we've gotten the residents involved.
What are some of the ongoing or the anticipated projects that you have in the pipeline?
that's a good one.
Well, you know, one of the things we've done is hold events over the years, and we've scaled them according to the size of the club. The South Orange Rotary Club was established in 1926, so you can do the math on that. We're almost 100
I can
years
use my
old.
phone.
That's right.
And so at one point it was up to how many members? And our
30.
longest
Yeah,
term
30
member
members.
is not here with us
Yeah,
tonight,
30 members.
Okay, so and when I started too, it was probably about 25. So, and at that time we ran a big, what was it, a 5K?
That's
Through
right.
South
the 5K
Orange, and
was a
that's
big
been
one.
taken on by another organization now. But we did that that required a lot of people in the club to do it. So now, as we've gotten smaller, we've teamed with other clubs. We worked actually with West Orange to do the dictionary project,
right.
so that we did it here, there, and in Orange, where there is no Rotary Club, and the kids also. You know, people say about the dictionary project, I'm a librarian, I just have to say this. They're like, oh, who needs a dictionary? You can look up the meaning of any word on your phone. And you can, but you don't discover new words on your phone. And
Right.
we got the best, that was my favorite thing every
Yes.
year, getting the letters back from the kids, because at least some of the teachers would have the kids write a letter. These are letters from 3rd graders, and a lot of times they included a word they had discovered in the dictionary.
Yeah.
And I learned a few new words that way. And it was just fun, and to see that they really truly were excited, and they're 3rd graders.
I really like what you said about discovering. That gives you the ability to discover new words because it's right there in your face. But I wanted to add, we had a meeting last night. It was a district-wide meeting called the General Assembly. And it's an introduction to what's coming this next year, which starts in July. And they're training the president-elects. So they're training the people that are in my position. And they honor at this event things that have happened over the year. So this year we gave a scholarship to a student. He's a graduate student, and he's going to the University of Edinburgh to study criminology. And Rotary is paying for him. Our district is paying for him to do that through the fundraising that we have done locally and in the district and globally at the international level. And all three of those parts pay for him to go there. And he showed up last night in his thank you speech to us with his third grade dictionary.
Oh, that's
It was
awesome.
really amazing. It was really amazing to see that.
Well,
So it made a difference.
I like the idea of having a physical dictionary. I always have this nightmare that somebody somewhere is going to get into the online dictionary and change the meaning of words to their own benefits. You know, you can't, once it's on a piece of paper, you have to cross it out.
Yeah.
But how do you actually do the fundraising, and how successful is it? I mean, do you collect like $100,000s of dollars, or is it just?
Hey, here's our
How do you
money
do it?
man.
Oh yeah, that's right. We have the
I
treasurer.
had started off saying about events and how we've scaled them to different things, and we take on smaller projects.
Yes,
I would
so
say, and smaller events.
What
but
we were doing for a little while, which was a lot of fun, is we were having an event called Happy Hour for charity. And we would have them at the Reservoir Restaurant, and we would invite different residents to come or different organizations, and we'd raise money from that, and then we would make the donation to a particular organization in town. So we've donated to the Children's Emergency Medical Fund. We've also donated to the South Orange Rescue Squad. Speaking of the Rescue Squad, we were responsible for helping fund their Resusci Annie. They needed a new mannequin for their CPR training, so we were involved with that. So we've raised some funds in the past, and we've given it back to the community.
Yeah, I certainly have. I mean, it's not like that's the kind of thing you would normally think of, but you know, those are all extremely worthwhile, worthwhile endeavors. What is, well, two questions. One, what is a typical meeting like? Well, I have three questions. Who can go to the meetings, and how do you recruit new people? That's three, right?
yeah,
Okay. No, I just had to
just
check.
keeping track for you.
Okay. So, what is a typical meeting like?
Typical meeting is we do have an agenda, and we start off with going through the business agenda, and at times we do have guests. So it is an open meeting where guests are always allowed if they want to learn about Rotary. Many times we may reach out to someone, or someone may reach out to us, so we know who's coming. So it isn't too common to just have someone walk in that we're not aware of. They usually have a connection with someone in the club.
May I interrupt for 1 second? Because when I was saying about the Rotary signs a long time ago, you see it coming into town and it posts when it is. So any Rotarian anywhere they are in the world is welcome to find the local meeting and attend. So which Stacy has done a lot
of times.
Yeah.
In a lot of
So I
different
went
places,
to-
and sometimes
Go ahead.
we've had people from other states or other countries.
We have.
Just very randomly, they're here visiting somebody in the area, and they found the meeting.
I went on a trip to Italy, and while I was on the trip to Italy with nobody, a group of people on a tour, I went to 3 meetings, one in Rome, one in Venice, and one in, I forget the other town, but I think I couldn't
Florence?
find Florence, but I couldn't find the site, so I never made it to that meeting. But they had a meeting every 2 weeks, and it would be, one would be at the bar, and the other would be at a restaurant. And I went to the bar on the wrong night. So you have to figure out how to read those things.
I mean, they must have been conducted in Italian, I would suppose. weren't
It
they?
was. Actually, the one in Rome was conducted in Italian, and it was the day after 2008, so the banks had failed. Is that right?
Yeah.
It was September 16th.
Yeah.
Well, that's why it was at
2008.
the bar.
Yeah, no, this one was a
That's
real
why she
meeting.
went
And
to
I
the
went
bar.
in, and the way they were talking, it didn't matter that it was all Italian. I was understanding what they were saying.
Really?
That it was about the banks. That's right. Everybody's 94% of it is body language. So I was getting it. And they were talking about the banks failing and what was going to happen in Italy and what was going on. It was amazing.
You know, the Rotary was started in the United States by a group of businessmen in Chicago.
Four.
That's right.
Right? And for years, one thing about Rotary was it was a male only, and it hung on longer than some things hung on being male only. The library director at South Orange before me actually was in California and dropped in a meeting, and they didn't want to let her in because she was a woman. And this was like in the 90s. Yeah, and she said, well, I'm coming in anyway.
Yeah, that's right.
Points for librarians. Anyway, so yes, and you were talking about events
Yes, so we've
and
also
lunches. Oh, that's
we've also raised funds for the Maplewood Y. We've donated some money in the past, and they had a program there that we helped fund, which was From Darkness to Light, which was a program about how when we were kids we were told, be careful, don't talk to strangers. But this was a little bit more involved and more informative to be more current with the times and to teach children about what they should avoid. And it was about avoiding pedophiles and people of that sort. Did you want to add anything, Stacy, to that?
No, that was fine. I mean, I sit on the board of the YMCA also, so it was something that I brought it to my Rotary Club
Okay.
to participate in.
And did you bring in like a counselor or a specialist?
The training, the money that we gave to them helped bring a trainer and trained many people in Maplewood and South Orange. So I was probably one of 10, which was the Y staff and myself, and then we expanded it because it then became a Y program to bring this to the town, the two towns, because we felt it was so important at that time to be aware of it, of what was going on.
Well, how do you join the Rotary if someone wants to become a Rotarian and you only have about 30 seconds to tell me? Sorry about that.
so you could just search online. There's Maplewood Rotary. There's South Orange Rotary Club.
Initially, it was by invitation that somebody would invite you to come. Now, anybody can join. They can ask to come.
Oh,
So
okay.
if they're interested, please ask to come.
Okay, so you've heard that. You can join. It can be, if your preference is to work locally, there's that opportunity. If your preference is to work at a more global scale, you have that opportunity. Thank you for joining us on this SOMA TV special.